Do we want to get started or wait just a couple more minutes?
We have about 20 attendees. I think we can get started.
Okie dokie. Well, welcome everyone. This is our COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program, RFP Field Partner webinar. And just to let you know, this is just for RFP information for the field partners. The session is being recorded and may be posted publicly. We will leave time at the end for questions. Today's answers offered are preliminary, and final answers will be posted on the Minnesota Housing Multifamily Grant Program page. Please mute your line if you are unmuted at this time, and put your line on hold as it might trigger hold music. Next one. So the mission of Minnesota Housing is the foundation for success. So we collaborate with individuals, communities, and partners to create, preserve, and finance housing that is affordable. So we'll do some welcome to the webinar and then introductions. My name is Michelle Doyle. I'm the program manager for the Minnesota Housing COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Graydon, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Oh, yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Graydon Francis, and I am one of the field partner officers for the Rent Help Minnesota program.
And then we will do an overview of the COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program and the principles. We'll also do an overview of the second round of the field partner RFP, the application scoring and review criteria, the application submission and timeline, and then at the end we'll have time for some questions. So the overview of the program. So the COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program, known as Rent Help MN, provides direct assistance to renter households that have experienced or are at risk of financial hardship because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have 2 rounds of federal funding in December of 2020, approximately $290 million, and then March of 2021, approximately $229 million of additional funding. The Rent Help MN program has a centralized intake system. The application is at the Rent Help MN website. You can call 211 as your call center. The online application, online processing is centralized, and payment processing is also centralized. Our field partner program provides in-depth application support and outreach to households that may need additional assistance to apply in the community and state. So renter households, you must be a Minnesota resident and a renter. Homeowners are eligible, have a household income in your county at or below 80% of the area median income, have experienced financial hardship through the coronavirus outbreak, demonstrate a risk of experiencing homelessness or housing instability, and then prioritize households no more than 50% of area median income or unemployed for 90 days. Households are eligible for up to 18 months of assistance, past due rent, utilities, and housing costs are what is included. Future payments included in the 18 months of assistance. So we first pay the past due months, and then you can get up to 3 months of assistance for future rent at a time. And then rent for manufactured home lots or rent for manufactured homes is eligible. Funds are paid directly to the landlord or leasing agent for the rental unit, the utility company, or the manufactured home park owner if eligible. If your landlord doesn't want to participate in the program, then we can work on doing a direct payment to the tenant, so the tenant can take and pay their rent arrears directly. And it doesn't count for the renter as income. So our core principles and values are human-centered with strategies to reach those that might otherwise be left behind. The geography, the ability, the language barriers. Anti-racist and race equality. Use intentional strategies, not perpetrate the conditions that create or maintain racial disparities. Customer experience that minimizes stress and uncertainty. Transparency, timeliness, and flexibility. And then organizations by and for communities most impacted are critical partners for equitable outcomes. And now Graydon will take over.
All right, so the overview for the RFP. This is the second field partner RFP, and it seeks to continue to partner with organizations across the state to help applicants navigate the program requirements and complete and submit online or paper applications for assistance. It's up to $2 million in field partner RFP funds, $200,000 maximum award for organizations applying as a collaborative, and $100,000 maximum award for individual organizations. The funding period is from January 22 to June of 2022, and it's intended to identify and serve persons least like to know about the program or be able to navigate the application process without assistance. Applicants are encouraged to employ strategies to reach households overrepresented amongst those experiencing housing instability, African Americans, American Indians, people with disabilities, veterans, and people are part of the LGBTQIA+ community. Next slide, please. Eligible applicants are existing field partners within the Rent Help Minnesota program, nonprofit or community-based organizations, family homeless prevention and assistance program, grantees or sub-grantees, federally recognized tribes in Minnesota, state and judicial districts that have on-site help centers, services centers, or other resources for households dealing with crisis, or local unit governments to perform this work in the field. Geographic service areas must include one or more, the entire state of the Minnesota, or one or more continuum of care regions, one or more community action program regions, one or more metro counties, one or more judicial districts, one or more Minnesota Indian reservations or communities, or cities with over 85,000 people. The scope of the work: staff support to households to prepare and submit applications for assistance, accept referrals from the Rent Help Minnesota call center and case management partners to provide application assistance and maintain open lines of communication, provide culturally specific application assistance as appropriate, provide a language plan including translation services, and provide multiple communication options. Program costs may include mileage or travel costs to assist participants, technology, personal protective equipment, other direct costs with program administration, financial program management, and data reporting, not to exceed 10% of the subtotal of all other proposed expenses.
Thanks, Graydon and Michelle. This is Alyssa Wetzelmore, Community Development Director at the agency. I'm not sharing my camera for now because I'm also sharing my screen, but appreciate all of you coming today. So I'll be providing an overview of the application scoring and review criteria. So we'll be looking at capacity, equity, and budget, and I'll just briefly walk through the subcategories of things that we'll consider. So we want to be looking at the staffing and administration capacity, to make sure that's enough to deploy the program, that there's a reasonable number of households served, the ability to take referral calls from 211 or similar call center for Rent Help MN, ability to be flexible with the program roles and development, and creative and effective strategies to reach and engage the identified populations, and also significantly the ability to work with households experiencing high stress, trauma, or other experiences of discrimination or marginalization in government systems. The next piece is equity. So we're looking at the applicant's ability to demonstrate culturally appropriate marketing, access, and services to populations systemically impacted by housing stability, organizations owned or led by people of color, Indigenous individuals, and or women, as well as a robust language plan. And then finally, for the budget, please make sure when you're answering the narrative question to provide a clear explanation. We'll be evaluating whether the budget is reasonable and looking for a plan of how the funds will be managed to last for the duration of the grant period. So as you can see here, we've laid out the scoring methodology with capacity at 50% of the scoring, equity at 30%, and budget at 20%. And then more specifically, the funding selections will not solely be based on application score. The review committee will also evaluate the program's strategic priorities to provide statewide coverage and the ability to address equity and community need, especially for populations systemically impacted by housing stability. And then as far as the application and submission timeline, I'll be walking through some of these details. There's a few different things that I just want to make sure to point out so that everything goes well for you if you decide to apply. So for the application to be considered for funding, we must receive all of these documents listed below by the deadline. So Tuesday, December 7th at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. Please note we are unable to provide extensions, so please do ensure that everything is submitted by that deadline. And then what's included is the application itself, the application signature page, which is an attachment, the budget, the affirmative action certification, and then current financial documentation. Please note that this is submitted during a separate financial tool I'll be walking through later, and this is applicable to non-governmental organizations. And again, just to highlight the financial documentation requirements, those apply to non-governmental organizations applying for $25,000 or more who must supply the following current financial documentation. And what you do is you just look at the chart here. This is also in the application. So look at how much your organization's gross revenue is, and then you can see in the documentation column what information you need to provide. If your response to this RFP could be more than $100,000, please make sure to complete the State of Minnesota Affirmative Action Certification form and then provide documentation of compliance if necessary. This is also provided in the application information. Again, just want to highlight the deadline. It's Tuesday, December 7th at 4:30 p.m. Central. And please note there are two steps to completing to submitting a complete application. One, for all of the application documents we've outlined previously, please make sure to send those at this link below. It's a CVent link, and you'll click through the various pieces to answer your questions and upload the documentation. But please note that your application is not complete until you also submit the financial documentation. Here you can see the link to that tool below. Again, that's also available within the application documents. And just to provide a few more details in case that you have any questions, again, you follow the link to the financial documents tool, you select secure upload, you enter this email that's provided here, mhfa.app@state.mn.us, and then you click start and follow the instructions. Please note that this PowerPoint presentation will be made available online, so you can also refer to this if you have any questions or want to refer to it as you're completing your application. As noted earlier, this program is funded through federal funding, so there are federal and contractual requirements that we need to follow. Maintain financial records of the use of the program funds for a minimum of 6 years after the end of the grant contract. Submit monthly invoices and reports by the required due dates, have a written conflict of interest policy, comply with affirmative action and non-discrimination requirements, and comply with applicable federal requirements and guidelines. And then I just wanted to walk through the RFP timeline here. As you can see, the request for proposals has already been released. We have today's webinar. Again, Tuesday, December 7th, 2021 at 4:30, the RFP applications are due. We intend to issue award letters on or around December 15th, 2021. And then I wanted to highlight, because we do have a pretty tight turnaround period, we have what's called a due diligence webinar at 10 a.m. on Monday, December 20th. For those applicants that are selected as grantees, we will be having an overview of the various reporting and other requirements at this due diligence webinar. So please do hold it if you can on your calendar if you plan to apply, because we won't be able to give you a lot of notice, but please do keep that in mind. And then contracts are slated to begin in January 2022. So again, due diligence is our expectations. Those are the various pieces that need to be finalized in order for us to complete the contract. Again, the required webinar is Monday, December 20th at 10 a.m. for that due diligence overview. We'll provide the grant contract agreement, work on any revised budget if necessary, work with you to finalize the work plan, provide any payment information for the selected organizations, the DUNS number, and then the authorized contract signer. Again, we just like to flag this now because it'll move pretty quickly once we start the selections process. And then a DUNS number, it works best if you don't have this number and you plan to apply, if you can get that process started now. For those organizations that are selected, we must have a DUNS number in order to enter into the contract. So again, you can refer to this later for where to go to request the number. It is it's free, and this is how you obtain it. If you're a new state of Minnesota vendor and have not yet registered, you will need to do so prior to completing the electronic funds transfer form. So again, if you do plan to apply, having all of these things ready to go will make the process go more smoothly if you are selected as a grantee. So that is it for the initial overview of the application. I will stop sharing my screen, and now we can open it up for questions. Have we received any questions yet?
No, not in the chat or question box.
Okay. And I just want to make sure I've stopped screen sharing, right?
Yep, we can see you, Elisa.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, maybe we'll wait a few more minutes to see if any other questions come through. Oh, I think I see one. Oh, never mind. Let's see. Any other questions? Feel free to enter them into the questions or in the chat.
Elisa, I saw Samuel is raising his hand in the attendee box, so maybe he had some question.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Samuel, I think you can unmute yourself if you have any question or comments.
Hey, this is Nancy. Can you hear me?
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, I can read the question. So here's a question. It says, outside of 211, where are the clients supposed to come from?
So I can answer that. Some existing field partners, they do outreach in the community. And so during their outreach, they work with their community members. But if people call into 211, they get referred to community partners as well. So between the outreach that the field partner does or 211 referrals, that's where their applicants come from.
I can see
Michelle.
that.
Oh, go ahead.
No, Elisa, go ahead.
Oh, I do see a few more questions coming in. How long will the due diligence training be? That will be an hour on December 20th. Are we going to have access to the slides? Yes, this presentation is being recorded and will be saved. I'll follow up. We can follow up with the location, but it will be saved as part of the location where the other RFP information is provided. The next question is what constitutes a collaborative application? For example, if you cover more than one community action service area, are you held to the $100,000 limit as an individual organization? Michelle, if you're able to respond to that.
I don't have the answer for that one.
I know if it's just one organization submitting the application, that's considered an individual application. A collaborative application is involves multiple organizations that are sharing the funds. And then, will you provide technical assistance is another question we received. Please do send questions. I'll put that slide back up to the email address we identified. We can answer any particular questions there. Let's see. Okay, again, so we'll be able to answer any questions that you have. Just send them to the email address up on the screen. The new contract would be slated to start in January. The processes can take some time, but we will be working on that in the month of January. I'm going to just quickly share my screen here just to show where you can send those questions. And just so again, just send the questions to Jessica Deegan at cera.mhfa@state.mn.us. Are there any other questions?
Hi, this is Nancy. Judd Schultz has a comment in here. I'm not sure, Judd, if it's a question. All I can see is something about the application signature page. If you do have a question, feel free to unmute and you can ask it. Other than that, Judd's not able to unmute. Judd, if that is a question, if you can provide a little more detail in the chat, we'll do our best to answer that.
Please try *6. Sometimes if you're joining by phone, that can help you unmute.
Okay, Judd, if you continue to have difficulty and you do have a question, feel free to send it to the email that's up on the screen. We will be posting these FAQs on our website, and our intent is to have these posted prior to the Thanksgiving holiday.
I saw the comment that Angela posted that people are muted by the organizer. I do not see that way. Elisa, can you double check so people can have a control to mute and unmute myself?
I will try my best. Okay, I will unmute. Judd, you're unmuted if you wanted to join.
I'm unmuted.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the technology still. It's a learning curve.
But
Go ahead.
anyways, I went into the application. I downloaded the application page. I was going to type in Amanda Mackey, our executive director's name and her title. Well, I typed in Amanda, hit the space bar, and it moved her name off to the, like bumped it up a line and then kept me there to type in her last name. So it's just not formatting correctly. So I think you need to check that out to make sure it formats correctly when we type stuff in so it doesn't move stuff around. That's all.
Oh, thanks for letting us know. We'll work to look into that.
Yeah, so it's just jumping things around. So I know that just as I was preparing, trying to get all the easy stuff done first. So.
Okay, can I clarify one thing though? Because I know that we provide the application can be downloaded so people can look at all questions as they, want to plan and maybe check certain things. But the application itself has to be answered through the CBENT. And I don't remember. Are you talking about the CBENT thing?
No, I'm talking about the application signature page that you download, fill that out, have it signed, and then upload it. So it's not the application itself, it's just that signature page.
Okay, that's helpful.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judd. And we do now have control over the mic, so I apologize to those of you that have been waiting to ask a question. Angela Larson, you're unmuted. Oh, you're self-muted, Angela. I think you should be able to, there you go.
Yeah. Mine was just the question about the individual organization versus the collaborative application, because, we choose to cover more than just our own service area without another partner to help us do that. So we're doing more, or we cover more than our own service area. And so to be limited to the individual organization, when some organizations might only be covering 3 counties, but we're covering 13 is, I was just wondering about that because we do cover a very large service area. So if that's the way it is and that can't be changed, then that's the way it is. But I thought I should ask.
Thanks for
Thanks,
reading
Angela.
that.
Yeah, we'll make note of that. We have a question from Assad. Hello, Assad. You're self-muted, Assad, but you should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you. My question is, right now we are in the middle of actually the last period of this current contract. I think this is going to be ending in December 31st, maybe up to January. So when would the new contract will be starting? Is it January or February?
I think the expectation is that contracts will be finalized in January for the work to start in January upon contract execution. So I believe that's the timeline, but
Okay.
we'll defer if anyone else wants to add.
So
Yes, so
January
the plan is January.
to
And then
June.
existing contracts are being extended for, I believe, 30 days to
Oh,
finish up.
Yep. Yes, I got that email today. Thank you.
Thanks, Assad. Tom Karst, you are self-muted. I think you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. So I wanted to ask about the current cap and the overall funds. Hypothetically speaking, if the applied organizations and awarded organizations don't meet all of the funds allocated for these contracts, is there a possibility that the caps could be increased?
I am not sure about that. That's one that we would have to get back at, unless someone else would like to.
Generally, whatever caps we provide in our applications are ones that we have to stick by. Unfortunately, Jessica wasn't able to join us today, but I will bring that question back to her.
Thank you.
So I guess that this answer will be a part of the later post of FAQ, right? So it could be posted in 1 or 2 days in our website and also shared by the e-news from Minnesota Housing.
The next person with a question is Shana, or Shanna, I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name correctly. I don't have the capacity to unmute you, but I think you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Oh, hi, I'm sorry. I must have pressed the button when I was trying to unmute myself, so I don't have a question. I apologize.
That's all right, thank you. Tanya Fitzgerald, you are, if you can, you should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question. Tanya, if you still have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask that. And if not, feel free to type it in the chat. And as of now, I believe that's all the questions that all the hands that are raised. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. My Lore, you are unmuted. Go ahead and feel free to ask. You're unmuted if you have a question. I wonder if we're having some technical difficulties or if perhaps you don't have a question any longer. As of now, we have gotten to all the questions except for those that have not been able to ask due to either technical difficulties or not having their question any longer.
And I did see a question from Maya earlier in the presentation related to current field partners and those contracts. Please work with Michelle and Graydon regarding the existing contracts for those that have existing contracts, but we can answer any questions about the upcoming RFP or make sure to get those answers and include them in the FAQs. So with that, it looks like we have answered all of the questions that we've received. Again, if you have any other questions that come up, please don't hesitate to reach out at the email address provided. We do appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Have a good afternoon. I'll leave up my screen until everyone signs out. I believe we can stop the recording, G.
Yeah, I'm looking at, yeah.